Is it champion clinching stuff? Oh, you bet it is! Martha's done it!
Over the last few seasons, we have seen new robots step into the spotlight and immediately make a name for themselves. This season looks like it will be no exception. We saw Gumdrops take down the hardened veterans of Dynamite. We saw Rampage take down the mighty Huge. We saw Rage Against the Fridge demonstrate insane flipping power. And we saw Wishbone show just how deadly that egg beater spinner is. Will these robots be able to keep up their round 1 success? Well, they all fight tonight, so let's find out.
Welcome back to BashBots, everybody. I am your host, Dominus Ignis, and with me is our match analyst, the Damn Beaver. Tonight, 5 more fights will hit your screens as the carnage continues and our robots look to impress the selection committee.
As it turns out, time really does fly when you're having fun, because after tonight's fights, we'll be at the halfway point of the season, and let me say, there is some change in the air. So far in the tournament, we've already seen some rookies make big names for themselves, and veterans have had their worlds turned upside down. We've seen second-year robots Claymore and Ryu Kishin take wins over robots that have been competing in robot combat for years. We've seen Gumdrops in its first year of combat take down the hardened veteran Grim, and who can forget Panther finally hitting it big by taking down Tenderloin just last episode. But hey, Dom, what else have we got in store for us tonight?
Kicking things off, coming off a win against Huge, Rampage looks to advance to 2-0 as they take on Goldeneye. After that, both coming off dominating first fights, Cosmo and Siren will be facing off. It's rumoured that the two builders have not had a very friendly past, so the stakes for this fight are much more than just for the selection committee. After that, 3 robots looking to bounce back after a round 1 loss are Mulsan, Erod and Wagboss. A win for any of these robots could set their season back in motion, but a loss could mark the end of their hopes. The 4th fight of the night will see Gumdrops coming off their first win, taking on the always deadly Tranquilizer. And for our main event, 2 veterans in Joel Yu and Wither square off in the arena with their new robots, as the Flipperbot Rage Against the Fridge takes on the egg beater of Wishbone. Without further ado, let's take a look at our first fight.
For our first fight, we hope you like yellow vertical spinners because we've matched together 2 of them as we're about to watch Rampage versus Goldeneye R2. Rampage, we saw how well it works in BashBots after we saw it come off an absolutely massive win against Huge in their first fight. It did sustain quite a lot of damage to the top, but it didn't really stop it. And also the builder, that Discord guy, he does think it's in good shape for this fight.
Now, sure, Rampage had an absolutely massive win against Huge in their first round fight. However, they have had to spend that time fixing the top part of their robot. Meanwhile, Goldeneye sustained almost no damage whatsoever, meaning that in this time, Solar has been just fine-tuning it and practicing their driving skills. This gives Goldeneye the edge headed into this one.
Well, like I said, this should be an interesting fight to watch if nothing else. Let's head down to the arena and see just what happens when Goldeneye gets a taste of reality.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? It's robot fighting time! Let's bring out the bots! In the red square, from the United States, it's a Golden Vert, it's Rampage! In the blue square, from the USA, it's a Golden Vert, it's Goldeneye!
So, strategy for this fight is to take the opportunity to try and wedge him head on in the first few seconds. If it turns out that my wedge is better, then just keep that heat on him. If my wedge is worse, I'm going to try and go around for the sides, pick some pieces off the back, maybe clip a wheel, and then just keep on him the entire fight.
Alright, so I feel like the strategy of this one is very similar to what I said when I went up against Amber last season. Like, a vert versus vert fight can go either way for the most part. It's gonna come down, like, also like my last fight, wedge and driving. He said his wedge isn't that great, but I've said mine isn't that great, so we have no clue how it's gonna be. He didn't really get tested out his last fight because he fought Big Robo. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one goes.
Well, it's a good job Rampage has familiarised itself in other competitions like BattleBots, otherwise you might struggle to tell these robots apart. But one of them will be moving to 2-0.
So, will it be the gold vertical spinner or the gold vertical spinner taking the win here? I wonder.
Well, you see, one of them is called Goldeneye, so perhaps the more golden Rampage with the gold medal against the established Huge in its first fight, but both of these robots are 1-0. And one of these golden vertical spinners will be getting their second win here today, and it's looking so far like Goldeneye. None of these robots really specialise in the wedge department, or at least as far as clearance is
But they've
concerned.
both got black as well. Like, how can we differentiate these guys? It's ridiculous. I mean,
You see, one was in BattleBots and the other one wasn't.
Can you stop, like, actually having a decent wedge all of a sudden?
they've both got very similar attacks in so far as well. Just little knocks over, but nothing too major so far.
Chipping
50
away
seconds
at the
played.
Rampage wedge there, actually. That was a little shard flying off. But I mean, well, one of them is named after a James Bond film, and the other is named after, well, quite a legion of other robots called Rampage, probably.
Yeah, there are quite a bit of difference in that regard, so I'll give you that one. Ooh, good hit there from Goldeneye. Quite similar to the hit that Rampage got off a little while ago. It might have been Goldeneye that got the previous hit in, to be honest. I can't remember, and I'm genuinely being serious there. Half of the fight gone. It's been close, I think.
Yeah, certainly there are many BashBots fights that don't make it to the air and get highlighted or skipped altogether and whatnot, so clearly we have something that's worth seeing in this encounter, even if it may be just bolstering the 2-0 record of one of these robots, which are looking very, very likely to move on to the bracket, if not both of them. But Rampage almost got a little hit at the wheels of the back of Goldeneye there, and that certainly would have made a pretty critical difference between these two.
Yeah, a minute to play, and indeed it is Goldeneye that has gotten the last few rumbles over, but it is Rampage that time that goes with the spiralling hit over. It goes flying itself though. 50 to play here, still no notable cosmetic damage. Both have been functionally quite adept though.
Certainly, if it does go down to the judges, I wouldn't try and make the call right off the bat. It would definitely involve a couple of rewatches under a magnifying glass. But the pit will be going down. That could save them a real headache. Or the arena wall could. No, we're not quite in that corner.
Oh, nearly backwards out of the arena there by accident. It was Goldeneye who was in trouble as Rampage goes over the saws and spirals a little bit. We are edging towards the pit. We are edging towards the end of the fight here. 10 seconds to play. Rampage is moving around and getting its locomotion in all sorts of ways. It's carrying itself towards the pit here, which it narrowly misses as Goldeneye goes flying towards it from the flipper. Well, that's the end of that one.
That was really fucking close.
We're going to watch some highlights and see it all again. So this was the moment where one of the golden vertical spinners did indeed hit the other one. That was an attack from Goldeneye, but this was an attack from Goldeneye, actually. But we're now going to get an attack from Goldeneye? Okay, I guess our editing team seems quite insistent that Goldeneye was winning this one, was it? Does it matter? Someone won.
The results from the judges are in. The winner by unanimous decision is Goldeneye!
And winning by judge's decision, Goldeneye is now 2-0. Meanwhile, Rampage will need to go on a rampage if it hopes to redeem itself now that it's 1-1.
Moving on from the first fight, we have Cosmo versus Siren. Cosmo, as I said last time, it is the runner-up. We saw how well it worked in their last fight. They were just so aggressive to Starfire. They tore it apart. We know that Business Cat is a very good roboteer. We know he makes good robots. We know he drives well. I think this fight is pretty much in the bag for Cosmo.
A lot of people who know me know how long I've played Robot Arena 2, so I have got a soft spot for Siren. Siren got its first win against Spinning Mayhem, getting its record of 1-0. And while the forks on the top of the robot sustained some pretty heavy damage, the Seaborg has not only repaired them, but added racing rails to make the robot far more durable. Not only that, but the Seaborg has spent a lot of work sharpening that wedge in the hopes that it will be able to get underneath Cosmo that much easier.
Well, what better way to follow up the battle of the two golden black vertical spinners by the return of Cosmo, everyone's favourite vertical spinner.
Here we go in another installment of Cosmo. It's against Siren this time. Let's see if this interesting looking bot with that interesting looking lifter can do something here to worry the veteran.
Yeah, off the bat, it certainly has, but those side wedges of Cosmo working out not well enough though. Cosmo actually running a disc for the first time in what feels like an eternity. We're so used to that tiny trickly little bar of theirs.
It's interesting here. Once Siren navigates
get out
past
of
the actual sides of those, the front wedge, it does get in underneath Cosmo, and it has incredibly...
Well, a magnificent recovery from Cosmo there.
Seconds away from something incredible, but again, once it gets in the middle directly, Siren is able to just hug in underneath Cosmo and cause some issues for it. Interesting opening minute here, to say the least.
Truly a bit of a dismal thought to know that even if Siren did get that surprise knockout win there, Cosmo would still only go down to 1-1 and probably be in excellent condition to move on to the bracket regardless, but it really would have helped Siren to get that statement win against a robot that truly almost never loses. And it doesn't look like it's going to lose this one either, despite its moment of fear. Yes, Siren hasn't really outfitted anything since.
Yeah, Cosmo is now starting to build a head of steam, but Siren responding with another liftover. It's interesting, this one. The pit goes down, Siren again with a lift, not over, but it pushes its opponent away, and now it's putting its own weapon down on towards Cosmo's spinner, which ends up deflecting Siren itself away. Oof.
I'm not sure if you'd want to do that. You're basically affording yourself less frontal ground clearance by...
Oh, the spike of the arena there, causing issues for Siren.
That small size is costing them more than anything. They're just so easily comboed from one section to another. Hello, hello, hello. Cosmo bouncing everywhere except for the pit, which they did not fall into, I must remind myself.
It's been something that's happened once or twice this season for the veterans. A very curious fight against a rather unfancied robot. And Siren, although it didn't get its moment of glory in this fight, it's still done very, very well overall and is in contention here to take a win. Whether it gets the win, who knows? As Cosmo tries to get in attacks of its own and is trying to end this strong.
Indeed, they don't have that front ground clearance advantage anymore, not after they closed the flipper into Cosmo's disc. There was an opportunity for Siren in this match. Business as usual from Cosmo in the end.
Me. That was a good fight. That was a really good fight. Holy shit, well done. Whew. fucking terrified.
Okay, so here was the moment where Siren lifted Cosmo up and indeed got it over, and it was exciting. And then Cosmo even ended up pinned on the side, and we did think that for one moment the second seed may have lost the match, but it didn't. Unless the judges really disagree with me. I mean, can we say that that pin on the side is worth 1,000,000 points? Perhaps. Maybe Siren, that drive into the wall might have impressed.
The judges have come to a split decision. And the winner is... Siren!
And winning by judges' decision, Siren is now 2-0. Meanwhile, Cosmo, now 1-1, is going to need to redeem itself in its next fight. Anyway, let's not waste any more time and let's get into the next match.
We have a special treat for you tonight because we're breaking out the green square once again to have another rumble. The Ekron roller coaster of death is totally winning this fight, okay? Yes, it lost against Mars, but that's just because Yugaton wanted to give everyone else a fighting chance. We saw just how many hits it racked up on Mars's chassis with that powerful horse hammer. I'm never backing down.
Mulsanne, it performed amazingly in its first fight, and had there just been a few seconds more in the match, they very well could have won by pitting Tenderlove. The builder Maverick has been fine-tuning the robot, making it even better this time around due to not really sustaining any damage, and they're also debuting their mini-bot.
Marbos is just as good as Mulsanne. Yes, it did lose to Tranquilizer in the first round, but that dustpan wedge did prove to be very effective, and it took a lot of damage before it actually stayed down. Assuming the robot is fixed on time, which I'm sure Orc can. He is a good driver, he's a great builder. Orc is confident that he can control the other robots in this fight, and while I don't think he can beat E-Rods, it could definitely surprise us. Although, you know, I'm still hoping E-Rods wins.
Yet another three-way melee between some robots with no wins apiece. It's likely that two will be going out for good and one will keep their hopes alive.
I mean, look, I've always said BashBots melees always provide entertainment. This episode so far has been entertaining, and I can't see that changing here because we've got E-Rod, Mulsanne, and Warbos. And as you can see in the opening 20, they've all done something without really doing anything, so it's brilliant, perfect.
Mulsanne has also decided to bring its mini-bot for the first time, the flame-throwing thing that sits beside it. I'm sure it's got a name in its own right, but it's serving just to impede its teammates' own progress at the moment.
Oh, E-Rod skirting over Mulsanne a couple of times there. Now it's scooped it up and chucked it over, but the horse, as always, stabilising E-Rod. The MVP. Maximum horse usage. As we get a close quarters action from the camera there. Oof.
Things are looking merrier for E-Rod, but will it go round and land another attack? Seemingly not.
Minibot is a persistent little thing. It's still going. I don't know how. It's been scooped up. I thought it got lost in the kill source for a second there.
It's certainly contributing. We've not seen any of the flames that was promised from it.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
It's gone into the camera built into Warbos there. And now it's pinning E-Rod in. Sorry, I'm doing a Mulsanne Minibot watch here. I'll try to stop.
Yes, it's certainly hard to ignore.
Don't like that.
The opponents of Mulsanne, they're both hammer weapons of varying quality. One is a competent thing, as I say, it drives nearly into the pit. The other opponent, of course, is undeniably one horse.
Hello. Oh god, that's a horse. I'm being attacked by a horse.
We certainly knew I-Rod as a ladder boss. Now it's turned into more of a hammer just by virtue of putting a horse onto the ladder. The stat padders of the ladder boss campaign will be missing its one representative, but it is stuck on Mulsan's mini-bot right now.
Oh, we did see BashBots try to pit Mulsan's mini-bot a little while ago, nearly pitting itself. But the mini-bot is still going with 35 to play. And honestly, if this goes to a judge's decision, I really don't know what to say, because they've all done things, but how do you actually, like, quantify it and rule it? Because it's been persistent without being punishing from all of them, to be honest.
Yes, and any robot who does fall to 0-2, the season is likely over for them, but I do hope that Erod gets a third fight anyway, whether it matters or not. I'm not quite prepared to let this robot go yet. Mulsan certainly has been the most attention-seeking, but this is a great little streak from BashBots at the end there. Well, that's going to be a dreadful one to call.
I've done all this fight. I'm going 0-2.
Maximum force usage!
Let's look what we want to focus on in the highlight reel. That was the biggest impact of the whole match for sure. Mulsan with that opening charge. The horse is flailing away on Erod. Is it going to be enough for them? I would say overall the hammer weapon of BashBots seemed more effective on the whole. They also had their moments of incompetencies though, like that flip into the wall and the moment they nearly drove into the pit. Hard to call.
The results from the judges are in. The winner by unanimous decision is... Erod!
Oh my word, Erod is at 1-1. It's back in the season. Protus, you better start quaking in your boots. On to the next fight, we have Gumdrops versus Tranquilizer. These are two spinners that have really impressed us, and I cannot wait to see them in action. Tranquilizer, we saw how well it works in his first fight against BashBots. We saw how good of a driver Boost is, where he has made it to the grand final not once, but twice. However, what I think makes this fight very interesting is that they have discovered that after their first fight, the wedge of Tranquilizer was actually misaligned, making it much worse at getting on the robots. The wedge has been fixed to this fight, and while it shouldn't make much of a difference against the horizontal spinner, this is a different Tranquilizer than Gumdrops will be expecting to fight.
If there's one builder that I can never predict what they're gonna do, it's Evil Toaster. While Gumdrops might on the surface look like a more traditional build, being a spinner, this robot has shown that it can attack parts of the robot that builders maybe haven't even thought about putting as much armor into. In its fight against Dynamite, it did take a while for it to deal some of that significant damage, but before too long, it all began falling apart for Dynamite. Quite literally, in fact. While Tranquilizer is plenty good, I feel like its weakness against horizontal spinners is going to do it in here.
Well, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like this fight will be a match of who can surprise who. And well, if there's one thing I love in this sport, it's a surprise. So, let's get down to the arena.
Now this is a bit of a mighty matchup for this stage of the competition. Gumdrops so impressive in their battle against Dynamite, but Tranquilizer, they're the one with the past record of great success.
Big impacts are guaranteed here. Oh, not necessarily with the arena floor I expected, but Tranquilizer with an interesting start there. Now an impact, and that's exactly what we expected from this one, and in from the rear as well as Tranquilizer. Problem with Gumdrops here, it has power in it, but it seems so unstable.
Yes, and especially if they're going to just turn their wheels right into the blade of Tranquilizer. They're also thin enough that they could probably get stuck behind any of the arena walls, not just our dedicated out of the arena zone. Certainly if that does happen now.
Flying towards the arena camera there, oh my. And lifting himself back over, but only into further danger. And Gumdrops could be dropping into oblivion if it's not careful.
Very fortunate that there is a backwards angled wall there, otherwise my prophecy could have foretold the outcome there. Such a thin design could have gotten envelopes. But right now, what they need to think about doing is anything, but they have actually. And Tranquilizer is stuck on it. front.
Well, the count-out
And-
is going to restart, but I don't think it matters. Oh, there is mobility, because the rear wheels now have traction, but it's clearly struggling. The weapon's out, and Tranquilizer itself might be out for good. Seconds left. This would be something.
Every time we count Gumdrops out, it comes in with another massive win. They're 2-0. And at no point have we had this confidence in them, but, well, we won't make that mistake twice. Tranquilizer, they were one of our top seeds. In the previous season, they made top 8. I think they were the number 1 seed. And a highly fancied machine, but they spent this match dominating Gumdrops, throwing it all over the place. They lost the use of their spinner and they were just tumbled over and beaten.
And getting the KO, surprising us all, Gumdrops moves to 2-0.
Before our main event, let's take a look at how a few more robots fared in their battles. First up, the fire-breathing Loki faced off against the flaming hammer of Tektronic for their first battle of the season. The hammer proved ineffective, and after just avoiding the pit, the fight went to the judges, with Loki taking the decision.
After that, we saw Mars and Bad Language enter the arena for their second fight. Bad Language proved to have the lower wedge and took the lead in the fight. However, they ran out of gas and were flipped over, being counted out with just 9 seconds left on the clock.
After that, it was the battle of the front hinges as Glacier and Claymore squared off. The fight was extremely back and forth, with neither robot really managing to keep the upper hand. However, thanks to the Roboteer's driving, Claymore did what it does best and got Glacier into the corner, flipping it out.
The fourth fight saw the deadly Amethyst back in the arena, with the next victim to be El Montecargas. In an incredibly brutal fight, the forklift was torn limb from limb, being thrown to every corner of the BashBots. Amethyst took the knockout, and El Montecargas was left with a massive repair job.
Finally, Shock Factor and Hospice faced off in their first fight of the season. Neither robot seemed to be fully working in the fight. However, a good few periods of control from Shock Factor was enough to win them the fight, advancing it to 1-0. Let's get back to the action for our main event.
And here we are, ladies, gents, and everything else, the main event. Living, breathing proof that you can teach an old dog new tricks. We have Rage Against the Fridge versus Wishbone. Wishbone from Wither. You might recognise that name because he was the one who built my Gronic, a robot that definitely had presence throughout the last few seasons, but it never got that far. However, that's not what's in this fight. We're talking about Wishbone, the robot that won its first fight against Avalanche, dealing very heavy damage to them and winning the judge's decision. Now, Wither is pumped up for the season. He thinks this is his time to shine in the BashBots. And I cannot argue with that. I think Wishbone all the way for this one.
This does seem like it might be Wither's best robot yet, but I think Rage Against the Fridge might be Joel Yu's best machine. Joel Yu, the builder of Wave Ripper and the GT robots, has shown an ability in that arena already. And after a great fight against Calcifer, where they flipped them out of the arena, I think Rage Against the Fridge has got a great chance in this. Now, they did have some trouble getting underneath, but you learn your robot more and more, allowing you to compensate for those weaknesses.
Well, like I said, this is looking to be an incredible fight. Both robots are new to BashBots, however they have also been competing in the sport for so long, they've had so much success before. This fight is a fight against two proven designs that have done so well, and I cannot wait to see it. Let's get down to the arena for our main event.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event. Let's bring out the bots. In the red square, from the UK, it looks more like a powerboat than an Audi. It's Rage Against the Fridge! In the blue square, from the Netherlands, this robot is somehow wider than my Gronic. Who would have thought that was possible? Introducing Wishbone!
Now, if the previous robot went against had the troublesome wedge, this one is my opinion of the wedge. Fortunately, that something like that's going to suffer mad gyro, so hopefully I can take advantage of that by doing some nice driving. I think I can hold up alright against it. It's just more a question of the flip's going to last, and I hope so.
So I'm fighting Jolu with Rage Against the Fridge. My strategy is to just ram into his face, try to get under. I can't get on our loop, of course. And if I can't get under straight, I will go with the fork into the flipper, and otherwise I will just go to the sides.
So two familiar captains, known for Mygronic and Wave Ripper and all of those in the past, but brand new machines here. They have wins, but can they get the second one? It's all important in this main event.
Main event time again. Here we go, and it's Rage Against the Fridge and Wishbone. You might be thinking, why are these two no-names in this big of an event? Well, veteran teams it is as always. New ideas and new experiences to come from both of them, I'm sure. And an interesting start here from Wishbone.
Yes, Captain Jolu always brings something new every season, but this is the first time we've seen Mygronic's team opt for something new, but it's working out rather well here. They seem to have the clearance advantage on Rage Against the Fridge, and they're just keeping combo attacks going and climbing.
Yeah, Wishbone looks very controlled, very steady, not the fastest, but definitely very deliberate in its actions.
Well, that's a spoiler alert.
And Rage Against the Fridge, they always seem to lose some kind of spoiler on their machines, and off goes the massive back chunk on this occasion.
Thankfully, I think we can label that as aesthetic damage and not factor it in too much with the judge's decision, but if there's to be a judge's decision, Rage Against the Fridge needs to get its first proper attack in, really.
Well, we are used to Jolu's bots being the aggressor, the one that's always in its opponent's faces, but so far it is Wishbone with a undeniable consistency and persistency in its actions here. And so far, with half the fight gone, it has done just about everything of note.
Using the car theme of Rage Against the Fridge to do some stunt driving there, ramping off the Wedgelet and the Egg Beater of Wishbone. Certainly, a Wishbone often exists to be split in half, but I don't think Rage Against the Fridge really has the means. They are in that dangerous corner, though.
Rage Against the Fridge finally now putting together some kind of systematic and consistent attacks, and Wishbone gets flung again, this time by the arena floor flipper, but it's still an interesting period of action here for it to take into account.
Ooh, no, don't want to be reversing into that Egg Beater, though. This is definitely a better half for Rage Against the Fridge, but I wouldn't say enough to outweigh the much poorer start that it suffered. They will be looking for the knockout if they want to make sure they can win this one, especially as things start to tip back in Wishbone's favour again.
It's two very new machines to our viewers, to us the commentators, but it's been a good watch nevertheless. Wishbone trying to regain the control it had at the start of the fight here by being in at close quarters again, trying to clip underneath with that Egg Beater and doing so successfully. Rage Against the Fridge being knocked back, but then swatting Wishbone out of its face. Tenta play.
Here we go, so we're now officially out of time for Rage Against the Fridge to do anything game-ending worthy. It will go to the judges here on this main event, and it does work in Rage Against the Fridge's favour that they did make it to the end of the main event, but I have to think that Wishbone is the one that will be going 2-0 here. Some great little wedging attacks. The Egg Beater, it wasn't causing significant damage, the only thing it really tore away was the decorative spoiler, but the sheer consistency and number of hits that it was delivering was truly impossible to count. Rage Against the Fridge overall got quite a lot of flips in the match, but only within that second half, and none that really threatened to end the battle at the end of it. But it's a good performance, and the builder Joe should at least be pleased that even if he didn't win the fight, it's a good performance to impress the selection committee ahead of the bracket.
The judges' results are in. We have a unanimous decision. And the winner is Wishbone!
And winning by judges' decision, Wishbone is now 2-0, showing that this could very well be the best run Withers had in BashBots. Meanwhile, Rage Against the Fridge did its best, however, it is now 1-1. With that, we have reached the halfway point of the season. So let's take a look at the records of the robots in the tournament so far. Starting off in the 2-0 bracket, these robots have had the perfect first half to their season. They have given themselves an incredible shot at making it into the top 16, notably robots like Amethyst and Claymore, who have had 2 straight knockouts.
For the 1-1 robots, they may have had a strong start to the season before being snapped back to reality, or they just took a little while to get going. They still have so much to prove and will all be hoping to make a big impression in their next fights. Interestingly enough though, we are seeing some big names of fan favourites in this bracket, such as Thunderwave, Tenderloves, Tranquilizer, and even the runner-up from last year, Cosmo.
The 1-0 robots make up the smallest group so far. They've only had one fight, but they've done exactly what they needed to do by winning it. On the flip side, the 0-1 robots make up the biggest group. They've all had a bad start to their season, however they can recover it by winning their next fight. There are some big surprises in this group, most notably Huge and Tracker.
And then we have the 0-2 robots. They are in such a dire situation. The field's big, and the amount of postseason spaces is so small. It seems like their championship hopes have pretty much been dashed by this point. Short of a miracle, all they can do is hope to win their next fight and pray. A shame, as all of these robots are fan favourites. But wow, Dom, it has to be said, this season, so much excitement, so much drama, so much carnage. It makes you want to enter yourself, doesn't it?
Man, you're right, but I wouldn't even know where to start. There's so many amazing designs. Do I make a spinner, a flipper, a hammer? It's just so many wonderful designs in BashBots. Saying that, the performances really do inspire you. So another night comes to a close. Big wins tonight for Goldeneye and Siren, and also Erod has reignited their championship hopes. Gumdrop with a huge upset over Tranquilizer, and there was a fantastic scrap in our main event. Beaver, what did you make of tonight?
I think, looking at that main event, Wither has a deadly robot on his hands. It's a huge step up from Micronic, and it looks like it could be primed for a deep tournament run. As our robots are starting to have their second fight, all of these performances will matter more and more to our selection committee.
From all of us here at BashBots, we thank you for watching and we hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next time when the carnage will continue, but until then, good night.